All right, let's just get right into this. If you've ever tried making an AI-generated cartoon, you know exactly the frustration I'm talking about. It's that moment where 1 second your main character looks like this amazing stylized 3D hero, and then literally the next scene, their face just inexplicably morphs, they suddenly look 20 years older, and their blue jacket, yeah, it's mysteriously turned neon green. It's absolute visual chaos, right? And it honestly makes telling a cohesive story feel totally impossible.
So you want to create a complete AI cartoon without all that visual chaos? Well, the answer actually comes down to shifting our entire mindset. We aren't just trying to brute force a single one-off project anymore. Today, we're diving into Nick Sasaki's comprehensive 30-step methodology for Google Flow. And look, this isn't just another list of random prompts. This is practically the definitive cure for visual inconsistency. We're going to learn how to transition from just generating random clips to building a reliable, reusable production system.
Now, to make this dense 30-step process super easy to digest, it's organized into 5 core phases. We've got Phase 1, Style and Story Foundation. Phase 2, Mastering Character Consistency. Phase 3, Scene Generation and Animation. Phase 4, Audio, Editing, and Polish. And finally, Phase 5, your reusable cartoon system. Let's kick things off with Phase 1, Style and Story Foundation. Basically, this is where we set strict creative boundaries before we even think about generating a single image. So first up, you find a cartoon style you absolutely love, snap a screenshot, and have ChatGPT analyze it to create a master AI style guide. Then, you need a story with a crystal clear problem. To help us out throughout this explainer, let's use a running example. Meet Daniel. He's a delivery driver stuck in a massive Manhattan snowstorm. He's got one last package to deliver, and his phone battery is at like 1%. You feed that specific problem to ChatGPT, and boom, it writes your script. But remember, right now, a script is just words on a page.
Which brings us to Phase 2, Mastering Character Consistency. You guys, this is the anchor of the entire process. This is exactly where we stop Daniel from looking like a totally different person from shot to shot.
So the absolute key here is establishing what Sasaki calls the master character reference. This is a single, clean, highly approved AI image of your main character that you save and strictly reuse to lock in everything. Their face, age, clothing, proportions, all of it. For Daniel, we keep the description super simple. 32 years old, blue delivery jacket, dark pants, gray sneakers. We generate that perfect image in Google Flow, and then we guard it with our lives. It becomes our visual true north.
Now here is perhaps the single most critical piece of advice in this entire methodology. Do not generate your entire cartoon immediately. I know, it is incredibly tempting to just dump your whole script into Google Flow and watch the magic happen. Please don't do it. Seriously, this one tip alone is going to save you hours, maybe even days of wasted production time and just sheer utter frustration.
Instead of rushing, you have to run these 3 mandatory Google Flow tests using that master character reference we just talked about. First, a close-up test. Does Daniel's face actually stay consistent? Second, a full-body test. Do his clothes and proportions match the original? And finally, an action test. Does he still look like Daniel when he's running or holding that package? Only when he passes all 3 of these tests do you officially get to move forward.
Okay, so he passed the tests. Now we confidently march into Phase 3, Scene Generation and Animation. This is essentially the factory phase, where we finally translate that script into real, visually consistent scenes.
To pull this off, we need a flawless formula. And the Google Flow prompt structure gives us this beautifully logical breakdown for every single scene. It goes like this: character, action, expression, location, important objects, camera view, lighting, mood, style, and continuity instructions. You are leaving literally zero room for the AI to guess. You're giving it highly detailed guardrails for every single frame.
Let's actually look at how that plays out in practice. On the left, we've got a chaotic, multi-action prompt. Daniel runs, talks on his phone, opens a package, and drives away. The AI will completely break down trying to juggle all of that at once. But look at the right. Daniel stands outside holding a package. Clean, simple, highly focused. The big takeaway here is that AI needs bite-sized tasks to succeed. You have to break complicated story moments into simple, single-action scenes.
Once you've generated those gorgeous static images, it's time to animate them into video clips. But Sasaki gives us some really crucial smart animation rules. First off, keep animation prompts incredibly simple.
Don't try to make Daniel do some cinematic dive over a snowbank, right? Instead, just ask the AI to make his blue jacket flap in the winter wind, or have the snow falling softly behind him. Short clips work best. Generate different camera angles to keep things visually interesting. And here's the best part. You don't even need to animate every single image. You can save a massive amount of time by just using basic software zooms or pans on static images later on in editing. Which brings us right to phase 4, audio, editing, and polish. We've got our static images, we've got our animated clips, so now we enter the assembly phase. Just like we locked down Daniel's visual identity earlier, we have to lock down his audio identity now. Creating a simple but highly effective voice guide matrix is absolutely key here. So, Daniel is a relaxed male in his 30s, maybe a little sarcastic. Maria is warm and energetic. The manager? He's older, talks fast, very impatient. By strictly sticking to a voice guide like this, whether you're using AI voices or recording real actors, you guarantee your characters sound completely consistent every time they speak. After you lay down the voiceover and sync up your visuals, you apply the final polish. And a huge step here is adding specific sound effects. When Daniel is stuck in Manhattan, we need to hear that chaotic city traffic, the crunch of his boots in the heavy snow, the wind howling around him. Sound gives your viewer vital contextual clues that the images alone just can't provide. You layer that up with some background music, throw on your generated captions, and make sure that opening hook really grabs the audience from second one.
And that brings us to the final and honestly most empowering step, Phase 5, your reusable cartoon system.
To actually build this system, there are a few assets you absolutely must save. We're talking about your style guide, your master character images for Daniel and his manager, location references like Daniel's van and the Manhattan streets, your prompt templates, your voice guide, and your custom sound library. Whatever you do, do not just toss these into the digital trash when you hit export. By organizing and saving these exact materials, creating episode 2 of Daniel's adventures is going to be incredibly fast.
And this brings us to kind of a profound realization. You haven't just made a video today. You have built a recurring cartoon series factory. You've successfully leveled up from someone who was pulling their hair out over morphing AI faces into a systematic creator who has mastered a highly structured, repeatable workflow.
So the only thing left to figure out is your narrative. What story will your new AI cartoon system tell first? Is it going to be a quirky workplace comedy, some epic historical adventure, or maybe just a determined delivery driver trying to survive a brutal city snowstorm? The tools are structured, the system is fully baked, and the creative direction is now entirely in your hands. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Now go open Google Flow and start building.